if you don't do customer feedback surveys, you're missing a trick. It's an opportunity to talk to customers. How many of us sit there scratching our heads going, what email am I going to send next? So I think the first thing is talk to customers.
Welcome to Honest E-Commerce, a podcast dedicated to cutting through the BS and finding actionable advice for online store owners. I'm your host, Chase Clymer, and I believe running a direct-to-consumer brand does not have to be complicated or a guessing game. On this podcast, we interview founders and experts who are putting in the work and creating real results. I also share my own insights from running our top Shopify consultancy, Electric Eye. We cut the fluff in favor of facts to help you grow your e-commerce business. Let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest E-Commerce. Today, I'm bringing to the show another podcast host, so we will talk a lot about nothing. Nick is the director of PPC and SEO consultancy Spec Digital over in the UK. He's also host of the Winning With Shopify Podcast. Nick Trueman, welcome to the show.
Chase, it's good to be here. And as you say, we will probably go on many, many tangents as podcast hosts because our job is to fill the space. So I'm looking forward to it. And thank you so much for having me on and hey to everybody listening.
Absolutely, yeah. And Nick has been so kind. I will also be on his show, and we're trying to orchestrate this to where it will come out the same week. So go find the other episode, and if you get both parts of it, you win a prize, which is knowledge.
And you can hear my version of everything Chase has said so far on our episode over on our channel. So it should be good fun.
Absolutely. All right. Well, talk me through your career so far. You've been doing this a long time. What's your path look like, and what are you guys specializing in these days? Yeah,
I mean, I'll keep it brief. If anyone wants the longer story, then feel free to reach out. I don't want to bore anybody. But when I was 17, so I'm 34 now, so I'm a little bit older. But when I was 17, I wanted to get a car, and I asked a friend of mine who started his own company, hey, can I have a job? And he said, look, this is Google Ads, click buttons, make changes. And I really enjoyed it. And I was studying maths at the time at college, music, and it was all very mathematical, doing music. And I just found maths was like a completely second nature thing to me, was probably one of my only strong points, maths and maybe IT at school. 2 years later, I started my first agency. So that would have been in 2009. And then in 2013, I sold that, went from like opposite ends of the industry, from working with tiny little local businesses and my business for a couple of years with a couple of staff, went right up to the other end of the scale. 4 years it would have been. Other end of the scale though, and working with some big global high street retail brands. Kate Spade New York, launching them in the UK was one of my first big like flagship things. I stayed with those guys till 2015. My business Spec has officially been running since 2011. I actually kept the company shell, sold the assets out. Then I went into more consultancy. So it's always been PPC SEO. Google has always been the main thing that I focus on, paid listings, organic listings. And we do so much around that, around CRO. We work a lot on Bing, we work on Amazon ads, we work on Meta ads and stuff. But Google really is the core, is people searching for stuff and finding us. I guess the big change, the big thing that makes me different, the reason when I quit the industry a sort of third time, why I didn't stay out, why I came back in. For me, it was really good moving into consultancy. And I know it's a wish-washy word. And the other word for consultancy, a lot of people think about is advice. We've actually changed that and defined consultancy as to change a client's position and condition. And so actually, when we look at a brand now, and obviously we're talking about e-commerce a lot today, half our business e-commerce, half is lead gen. But when we talk about changing a client's condition, when we talk about consultancy, it's about coming up with what we should do. It's making that thing happen. So we do a lot of doing, way more doing than I thought I would be doing many years ago. But we find we need to work with people like yourself, Chase, and actually execute stuff. Like you guys are great with code and design, but actually when it comes to SEO tags, it's easier for us just to log in than try and explain to you what needs to happen and let you know what we've done. We work in partnership like that. And the third thing as well, which is a really key pillar of this, is we train people like Chase as much as we train our clients. It's not a training program, it's just working with us. We like to educate people on how SEO works, why we're trying to do what we do. And so that's kind of my career in a nutshell. I've had many failed side projects over the years. And actually my podcast is my most successful by a country mile apart from my main business Spec. But I've been doing this sort of 17 years now, heading towards 18. Loving it more than ever, busier than ever as well, when actually I thought Google would be completely automated by now, but it couldn't be further from the truth.
Absolutely not. Google is still a wild card. How long have you been doing the podcast?
So I bought, we did a bit of an asset transfer of a business called Just Ask Parker, and part of that was the Winning With Shopify podcast. It was during COVID. Caroline, for lots of reasons I won't go into publicly, but she wanted to take a break from everything, and she kind of called me and said, Nick, you'd be a great podcast host. I'd love you to run my agency. So we kind of swarmed all of that up into Spec at the time as well. Most of the agency stuff's not really running running anymore at all from her side. But that's when we started the podcast. So yeah, I kind of is the one bit of the business I didn't want to do, had no interest in, and ironically, it's the only bit of the business still running, and it's doing really well. So yeah, it's 4 years I've been podcasting, well, 4.5 at the time this will go out.
Yeah, obviously, we know there's some people that listen to this show that are also like on our side of things in the agency world, but not to go a little super inside baseball. Give me the shortest answer to this. Is running a podcast for a service business owner still the number one growth hack?
No. Absolutely not. I think we've got the opportunity that we've been running it for a long time, and we have a good audience behind it. But we also have a community that we run where people have a login. They log into our community platform and chat about stuff. We've got loads of how-to videos. We run events. It's so much more than the podcast. We are actually just calling it Winning with Shopify now, and the podcast is one avenue. And we've been growing loads on video. But yeah, loads of friends of mine who run service-based business like, Nick, I'm trying to do a podcast like yours. What's the secret? I'm like, there isn't one. We've just nailed it. We found a niche. We've got lifetime listeners, and those guys are really important to us, and as part of that we're gaining more. But I think there's other channels, and as you say, we're not going to talk about it too much today, but there's other channels for a service-based business to kind of get their name out there and make ends meet.
Absolutely. So let's pivot over to our listeners, right? We both do a lot of work in e-commerce. So we are recording this leading up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but it's not going to come out until 2025. So what do you think a lot of merchants, not to call out any clients that we both may have or may not have, but like, what do you think are going to be some of the mistakes that are made during Q4 of this year?
The biggest thing I'm seeing, as you say, is just coming up to Black Friday now. So we're a few weeks before it. The biggest mistake I'm seeing right now is I think clients are still living in like 6 months ago world. This has been a brutal summer in the retail world. Whether you live either side of the Atlantic or anywhere on the planet, it's been brutal. The cost of living is going up. People got less cash. Luxury items seem to be less affected. Like it's general working people and people on average salaries working in the economy doing classified kind of very standard jobs, which are all really important and really required by society. They're the ones suffering the most at the moment, and they're the ones that make up a massive proportion of sales. So I think, what mistakes are people going to make? I'm seeing a lot of brands at the moment like making decisions as if they're still running at 8-to-1 ROI on Google Ads when actually they're running at 4-to-1 or 5-to-1. We've had some really tough conversations with our clients and clients we've started working with. Some are doing well, but it's like 30-40% are doing well, and the rest are still profitable, but nothing like what they used to be. Certainly like growth has plateaued for just about all of that kind of 60-70% of the brands we're talking to. So I think the mistakes people are making is operating as if they're still in that kind of big profit growth. Like this is not going to be a normal holiday season for any of us. At the time of recording, we've already seen that. Like it's been a really rubbish start to October and into November. Certainly in the UK, our government have basically made it impossible for anyone to have any spare money. They've released a new budget a few weeks ago and everybody's terrified of it. Popularity in a prime minister has never been so low in the UK. Just to give you an idea as to like what's happening here, how crazy it's been since COVID. COVID was like a grenade in our politics, probably similar to a lot of countries. But I think in the US as well, we're just seeing people spend less money, shop less. So I think the biggest mistake is like probably overspending. And actually, I think people need to be conserving some of their stock and some of their cash for January, February. I think they're going to be a bit better than expected, but still lower than normal is my expectation at the moment. I don't know if you guys are finding the same sort of thing.
Oh man, it's wild how we are in two different countries in two different economies, but with just how the world works, it still is all kind of the same. So a lot of our clients have had low years as far as like sales. Like obviously no one can say that the growth that happened during COVID was like what they were going to consistently see. People are realizing that finally and understanding it, and like kind of maybe saying it was a fluke. But it's still, last year wasn't as bad as this year for just as far as growth goes and overall sales. Like there's been a lot of kind of just unknowns, especially with our political climate here and the election going on. People kind of holding back on making capital investments into their businesses, be that, doubling down on paid ads or building a new website.
Yep.
A lot of people have been saying we're going to wait till January.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, like interestingly, the time travel of recording this early is hilarious because everyone will know who your new president is by January, which I think is interesting. But I guess it's hard, right? So a lot of brands we're talking to, though, we're basically doing the same stuff. Having worked in this industry for a while, I remember the financial crash. I obviously remember COVID. It was a few years ago. We basically talking to brands about like, how do we separate ourselves? So like if 80% of companies in your space, your niche right now, or niche as some areas of the US say, but if anyone in your niche right now is, if 80% of them are going to struggle and contract, how do we get in the 20%? Like, what do we change our website to? What's our proposition? What do customers actually want from us? And how do we help them? How do we level with them right now and say, we can't lower our costs without being immoral or screwing over the people that work in our factories, or actually just, you know, making the climate awful by the amount of emissions from manufacturing our products in another country to this country. I think having those honest conversations with customers is really important. I've seen some really interesting marketing campaigns recently of stuff like instead of buying 5 items from us every quarter like you guys do on average, we want you to buy 4. We want you to save a bit of money. So have a real think, what items do you want? Or actually, we're doing a 5 for the price of 4 sale in response to the fact that people have 20% less income according to this government funded survey recently or whatever. So I think having that honest conversation over email, over marketing, over website content, over blogs, I think that is becoming really, really powerful. And this is not going to fall on everybody's ears in a nice way. And I'm really sorry, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it how it is. When it gets tough economically, the businesses that have been riding a wave that shouldn't have been, they're the ones that will fall. Like good, strong, stable businesses that know their customers, they know how they should operate, and they have good products, they're good for the planet, and there's nothing bad to be said about them. They are the ones that will survive. So I think there is some like conditioning that happens in the economy of like bad businesses fall away because they just can't thrive anymore. They can't survive at all, which actually does leave a stronger economy afterwards. But it is, I guess when you look at recent history, it's like this is the 3rd round of this in 14, 15 years. It is quite painful. And I think it has been painful for businesses, and everyone's still got a bit of PTSD of the last one. Whereas the one in 2008, the financial crash, like that, people hadn't had one recently. So it was like almost a generation had turned over before the next one. And then we've had kind of that COVID, and now where we are post-COVID, kind of what's going on today. So it's definitely tough out there. Like, but I think there will be a silver lining, but I think we might be a year or 2 away from really seeing it.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. If you have a business and you're listening to Nick and I's podcast and you're hearing all of these amazing founders talk about how well they watch their books and how strong their margins are, and if you're not emulating that advice, and if you're not reading, go read the book Profit First by Mike Michalowicz and set your business on the correct path to not like, if you have a strong margin, you can survive a depression. It's like, that's the honest truth. But if you are over investing in performance advertising for no reason, you run into a few hiccups and you're out of business.
Yeah. I always ask the question, like, and I know as marketing people, this might sound like really stupid, but hear me out on this. You know, when you look at conversion rate and you're like, okay, it's 2% or 3% on a website, or like, we think we're crushing it 6. I mean, it's a stupid number anyway, because you should never look at a piece of data in isolation, but say it is 6% conversion rate. Most of you listening would go, oh my gosh, that's like double or triple where I am right now. It's all relative. You could have a conversion rate on really cheap, low margin products, and that's a bad thing. Like, you need a really, really good conversion rate on those, or you need better margins, as you say. I always look at it and think like, okay, say it's 3%, 97% of people haven't converted. Why not? What are we not communicating, or what did we communicate wrong to get them here in the first place that they didn't purchase from us? And I mean, if I could give 3 bits of advice to like any brand, and this does come slightly out of frustration, so apologies, but also out of like encouragement and optimization. One is talk to your customers. I know it's so obvious. If you don't have a focus group of like 20 to 50 customers that you talk to regularly and you send free products to, but you say to them like, here's a 100% off discount code up to $100. Go and buy stuff on the site, have it delivered, and tell me everything. I want to see videos of the delivery man turning up at the door. I want to see an unboxing video. I want to hear all your thoughts on the website. Like, tell me everything. If you don't have that, you're missing a trick. If you don't do customer feedback surveys, you're missing a trick. It's an opportunity to talk to customers. How many of us sit there scratching our heads going, what email am I going to send next? So I think the first thing is talk to customers. The second thing is we are talking so much on our show at the moment, exactly as you just said, about margins, about suppliers, supply chains. Like, if you manufacture your own products, you're going to have a better margin because you're buying in like pieces of wood and turning them into something beautiful. Like, that is a good margin, and you're paying labor costs rather than import, export labor, transportation, the whole logistics circle, taxes. you're saving loads of money. So I think the supply chain is super, super important. And the third thing, and this is the one that bugs me the most, and it's probably closest to both of our hearts, I would say, Chase, is like, do something different, like do something creative with your marketing. I interview brands all the time, and so often I look at the ones we interview, as you say, Chase, like they tend to be the fun ones with a story where they're like, how I did 200% growth in 3 months because they did something crazy. And when you do something crazy, all your competitors freak out, and it's brilliant. It's the best thing that could possibly happen. But so many sites look like what I call marketplaces. You're just like, there's just a list of products, and you're just like, oh, we sell these 10 types of products. We've got 10 collections on Shopify. And then we've got 10 products under each of our 10 collections. We've got 100 products in total, and they're just there. And you land on a product page, and and this is much more your world than mine, I think, as much as anything, Chase. But like when I'm running an advert on Google Shopping, if someone sees this beautiful picture, a cool offer or no offer, but loads of good reviews, and then they land there, and you haven't got someone like Chase there to go, right, we're going to make this look and work amazing, so that actually those reviews, we're going to cherry pick a couple to go actually in some of the product photos to go, Kim Kardashian said this about our product. It's like now we're talking powerful content. Like that's really cool content that where if she wears it, everybody wears it, it's awesome. Or she's the only one who wears it, it's exclusive, I really want it. You don't want to sit in the middle bit. Like, you want to be at one end of that extreme. And I think all the content, and do something crazy with the design of your site and make it fun. Otherwise, just sell on Amazon, take a rubbish margin and have a nice life. Like that's not the game we're in. That's not why people are listening to this. We're talking about e-commerce and making it fun. So I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, Chase, about bringing a brand to life on a web page.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I think one, you kind of alluded to this earlier, is like you work well with others and educate them on what you want to do. Like if Nick and I, if our agencies were tag teaming something for a client, that client's going to see amazing results, because what often happens this isn't by design, it's just the life of a small business person. They're wearing 8 hats and they just forget to share things, right? And so I don't know that Nick's team is working on this buy 4, get 5 deal. So I don't have the idea to build out a landing page to that specific offer that speaks to it. So now the marketing message of those ads matches the landing page of the website that's set up to facilitate that purchase in the most streamlined way possible. Whereas Nick could be getting, unfortunately, his conversion rate could be getting shot in the foot by this awesome offer because it's just going to some weird collection page that doesn't necessarily make sense, right? So the communication between the different agencies and teams and contractors, whoever you have involved, like, don't gate that, because you're just, A, you're making more work for yourself, but B, it's like, why do that? So that's something that, I see that we're going to be doing a lot. We still do it now. We work with other teams very well. But yeah, I think next year it's going to be, I don't know how quick we're going to see, things kind of rebound and go back up if, everything goes the way that some people hope it goes. But if it does, I still think that people are going to be a little trigger shy on like huge capital investments, and they're going to be wanting to increase the efficiency of the traffic that they can afford, right? So what that means is, like, I'm already spending $20,000 a month on Google. I can't necessarily spend more than that, but I would love to see that $20,000 in spend convert at a higher ROI, which means that they need to increase the conversion rate and average order value on their website. And then that's where a team like ours comes in to like make that stuff baller, make it more performant, make it make more sense, do those customer interviews like you're talking. We even get deeper. We love to do the user testing. We'll hire people that don't even know the brand to run through the site. We'll look at heat maps and scroll maps.
Nice.
You will also obviously audit it ourselves. Kind of like a lot of stuff stands out pretty obviously.
There's one, just to interrupt, Chase, there's one amazing tool that I'd recommend to everyone right now. And I have to say I'm on commission, but you'll understand the joke when I tell you the price. Microsoft Clarity is free. So I would recommend it on any site. I used to love using Hotjar to, like, when you, as you say, like you're looking at heat maps or looking at where people scroll. Microsoft Clarity is one of the easiest tools I've ever used in my career. And every time I go on it, 5 minutes and I'm emailing like clients going like, oh my gosh, guys, like I had a client the other day who, and there's no way they'll listen to this. I won't say their name, but I'll share some details. There's no way they'll know it's them, but they won't listen to this. They basically said like, all right, all our products, we're going to make up our own collections based on styles. So they just came up with a name and said like, they're an English brand. So like, okay, this is the Austin Oxford range as an example. That's not one of their names, but imagine it's the Austin Oxford, two very English words, the Austin Oxford range. And this product falls under that. So as a customer, I said, well, do you know what, guys? I think as a customer, if I scroll down and said, here are 4 other products in the Austin Oxford range, as a customer, I'd like to go, yeah, I mean, I obviously like this product. I've seen a Google shopping ad or I found it in a collection on your site. I've clicked on it. I'd love to see the whole range. This is obviously my style. This is whatever this Austin Oxford thing is. It sounds cool. It's very prestigious English. So I said, we'll just have a button and go to we'll make another collection on Shopify because that's free. It doesn't cost anything to make collections. We'll make another collection. We'll call it the Austin Oxford collection and put all the products in there that follow the same theme. They said, no, we just want to recommend 3 or 4. And on Microsoft Clarity, it's called rage clicking. And people were scrolling down and seeing the Austin Oxford collection and then 4 products. And they were rage clicking on the H2 tag for the Austin Oxford collection, trying to go to the whole collection. And then I think it was in like 5% of scenarios as well. This is all Microsoft Clarity data, completely free tool. They scroll up to the search bar and type in Austin Oxford and click search. Nothing comes up because they've not tagged the products properly. I went back and say, look, guys, you know, ego aside, I was right. Like we should definitely have a collection, and B, you need to tag these products because people are trying to look for them. And I looked up, I just did a quick, downloaded all their search data out of Shopify. Again, took a minute to download all of that. Did a quick search up on a CSV file and a spreadsheet and just how many people are searching up some of these different collections, and quite a few people. I was like, you need to launch these as actual collections. And guess what? Austin Oxford, for the first time in this brand's existence, there's some branding there. That's part of their, Austin Oxford's part of their brand. And there was one in particular, they're based in the north of the UK. And I don't know how much you and your listeners know, but the north and south, you might have seen Game of Thrones. It's based on the UK. There's a bit of heat between the north and south.
Yeah.
I think the north dislike the south more than the south dislike the north, but there's definitely a bit of a divide. And they're based in the north, and one of these things came up that was based in Cambridge, which is in the south. And they were like, oh, no, can't we do like the Huddersfield or the Leeds? And I was like, just doesn't have that same English vibe. I'm sorry, maybe it's just me, but let's test both. And that's my point, is test.
Yep.
So I just think Microsoft Clarity is, as soon as you mention like heat maps, it's such a good tool. And like no one was scrolling below the header on their homepage, but so much energy went into updating the homepage, all the latest collections and featuring products. And they believed if they put a product on their homepage, it would sell better. But we were like, no, less than 0.1% of your people actually scroll below the header. They go straight into the main navigation, the same main navigation you want to shrink and reduce and have it all under a shop drop down instead of having it all spread out like it is now. Don't change that, guys. Like, I've got the data now. Don't change that. So yeah, I think Microsoft Clarity is incredible. And it's, as I say, I'm on commission, but it's free. So I get nothing for recommending it. It's brilliant.
Microsoft Clarity is fantastic. We've been Hotjar partners forever. You know, if you need a little bit more than what Clarity offers for free. And then there's a new player in the game, heatmap.com. So imagine Clarity, but they pull in all of the e-commerce numbers. And so they're like, people that have seen this viewport made X amount dollars in purchases.
Heatmap.com, do you say?
Yep.
I'm going to check this one out. Awesome. That is getting added to my list.
Yeah, I'll introduce you to the CEO right after this, Nick. It's an interesting one, and the price point is similar to Hotjar. But all these tools are worthless without strategy or someone that actually logs in. You have no idea how many times during onboarding or discovery where I'm talking with a potential client and I'm like, hey, do you guys have something for like heat maps or scrolling up? And they're like, oh, we have Hotjar, we have Clarity. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, who's watching those things? And they're like, oh, nobody. And then you go to log in and it's like,
but we have it
not installed, or the payments have lapsed. And it's just like, okay, well, step one is we're going to get that working again.
Yeah, we find it's exactly the same bit at GA4. The amount of like, even when Google were like, right, 1st of July, you have to be on GA4 now.
Was that this year or last year?
It was last year. Yeah, they extended it for like a month or two without telling anyone. They just didn't turn Universal Analytics off because they realized like no one was ready. We were running webinars a year before that.
Well, they weren't ready either. Let's be real.
Yeah, they weren't ready. There's even stuff now that they have publicly announced is in beta, which I think is hilarious. But GA4, like we turn up and we had a client the other day. They're one of the biggest skincare brands in a certain country. And I won't say which country because, be able to work out who they are. But they rock up and we sort of won the pitch with them and had a look at GA4. They've got no revenue data. I'm like, guys, you are really well. Like, you're doing like over £1 million of revenue a month on your Shopify store. You're one of the biggest Shopify stores in this particular country you're targeting over here, and you don't have GA4. So they're like, oh, why do we need that? I'm like, sorry, the e-commerce team are asking me why we need GA4. I set it up and set up some Google Looker Studios and got my team to start setting up some reports for them in Google Looker Studio, and they were just like, oh my gosh, so if people are adding that to cart and not purchasing, I'm like, yeah. Add something to the cart to say why they should buy. Like, just because they've added it to the cart doesn't mean they're purchase ready. And like, we can check and we can now monitor those stats. How exciting. Like, we see how many people are purchasing things, which I'm old enough to remember when conversion tracking came out. I remember when analytics moved from legacy to universal. So it's funny seeing all the kids of today. I sound really old, but the kids of today going like, wow, GA4 is amazing. And I'm like, it's cool. It's the same as UA, just slightly different, but it works differently. But yeah, but yeah, you're right. The amount of clients that have especially paid tools they don't look at is just ludicrous.
Here, we'll do some more inside baseball stuff. When GA and Universal Analytics was going to go away, I basically made the executive decision, be like, we no longer care or know about anything Google. Like, we are not going to learn that stuff. Like, we're going to double down on what we're good at and stop saying yes to other stuff. And that's something like, as any business should, I think, re-examine what they've done in the last year and figure out what they can delegate or automate. Or my favorite thing is just stop doing it. Like, we just don't do any advertising stuff. We don't do any marketing stuff. I don't know anything about Google. I don't know anything about ERPs. I don't know anything about warehouse management systems, because those aren't our sweet spot where we can be the most impactful.
Yep.
And so, yeah, you just talking about watching it change a bunch of times. I was like, I remember when I stopped caring.
That'll be the day I retire. So, but we're the same, but on Google. So like, we've branched out. I mentioned earlier, like Amazon ads, Meta ads. We do it for a few clients, and Amazon, I think, is more in our sweet spot. We do a lot on Bing. Bing is quite a big channel for us now. We actually have some clients that spend more on Bing than they do on Google, but they're mostly in the lead gen kind of B2B space. It's not kind of, people aren't buying t-shirts on there like they would on Google.
You want to tell people why those results are so high?
It's because Bing Microsoft forced everyone to use Bing is the truth. And they pay a massive fine to the EU every year, like billions.
Microsoft is still like the number one downloaded or installed operating system, and it comes default on basically every Office computer. So the receptionist or the contractor, all of these people that work in the office, their office computer runs Microsoft, and Bing is the default browser. And so Bing cheatily stole a bunch of margin for people shopping at work.
I tried to do a bit of research the other day, and I can't get search data from Bing to tell me how many people on Bing type in download Chrome.
Oh my God.
Just to see like what the data is on it. But that's why Bing's big. We're the same as you though. Like we're branching out into more CRO stuff, as I know you guys are as well, because it drives the main thing we do. And you're exactly right when you said, like, if I can double the conversion rate over a year of a client's site, and that's on all channels, those channels include SEO and PPC, and they're often two of the biggest channels. And it's lovely to work with people like yourself, Chase, and other agencies we know across the world that we have that process. And it's almost like you will be on as many calls with us as we are with the client anyway, to go, look, you're going to need to implement all of this stuff. And by the way, this is all the other stuff we're working on, and you don't need to know any of it, but it's on a Trello board or something. You can just see what's going on. Same with you guys, because there'll be things, we find this more in SEO with e-commerce agencies like you guys. Like it's when, and this big tip for all of you merchants out there, if you've got a search marketing agency and you've got an e-com agency, if the e-com agency is deploying anything, just get a we don't care from the SEO agency at least, because then if it all goes wrong, you got it in writing. But more often than not, they'll go, I see what you're doing. We've actually put some schema code in there, or we've optimized something over here, or there's an opportunity while they're coding this. Can we add a few notes actually to the design? Say, could you use this code here, use H1, H2s, H3s, to actually to break the page down? We might get better rankings as a result. And then, because the amount of times I don't want you to admit this on the show, Chase. I'm sure it's never happened to you, but and especially as it's your podcast, the amount of times we've had clients launch new things that look better, should work better, and even based on data, but they're not, because they've not used an A/B tool to roll it out. So they've not like rolled out the new version to like 10% of their traffic and then optimize it so it is better. Because I think so often we get caught up in like how many websites look awful but convert well, and it's because people trust them, or they're just to the point. It's like, I just need the product, add to basket. But you must have seen some of that where you launch something that looks amazing, you're like, this is going to be better than sliced bread, and it just flops.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's often like they have such a high repeat customer rate, and that customer knows how to use the old website, and so when they get to the new one, they're like, hell is this? But then there's also
I'm going to Amazon.
yeah, but there's also like within like running split tests on the PDP, or like building out an isolated landing page for some sort of offer. Like you'll be like, this is gonna crush it, and then you launch it, and it's blatantly obvious what you accidentally forgot to include or overlooked. And you go, wait, hold on, this thing, we forgot this whole section. It just somehow it was on this wireframe, but didn't make it to this one, and so you know, it really isolates and brings all that stuff in. And it's funny about just split testing in general. You know, you're going to run 9 tests and it doesn't really matter, but there's going to be the 10th one where it really did matter.
Yeah. I won an argument today with a client, well, not an argument, a discussion. It's been going on for like 2-3 weeks where they've done an A/B test of something I told them to test. They'd actually taken it off and conversion had halved. And I was like, put it back on. And conversion didn't double back up to where it was, which turns out is a combination of things is what we've learned. But the new version, the conversion rate was lower, but the revenue was higher. So I was like, people are spending more. This is great. And you offer free delivery. So like it's less delivery to pay for, less customers to manage, and you got more money, and your warehouse has still got more stuff in it. Like, what could you possibly want more? You just use the new version and we'll turn the budget up. And they were like, oh, but the conversion rate's higher and we want a higher conversion rate. That's why we did this. So we might keep that one. I'm like, guys, no, I'm not. Sorry, it's your business, but no, I'm not accepting this. And today they were like, we're going to roll out the new one. And I laughed and said, I'm really proud of everyone. This has been a good experience. But I think when you're running a test, I used to make the mistake, I think, of going into testing going, I want to improve the average order value. I want to improve lifetime value. I've actually gone into testing now going, let's just launch it and watch the data and go, all right, average order value is better, but conversion rate's lower. So revenue's the same. So as a business, from our, as you said earlier, strategy, what are we trying to achieve with our strategy? Which one plays better to it? Or actually, could we make a hybrid version in the middle somewhere and try and work out which bits of the old version and which bits of the new version are the strong bits, and we'll create a combo of them? I think brands are too quick to go like, did it win or lose? And they look at it binary, and it's like, it doesn't work like that. It's not binary. And you guys do way more CRO than I do. I'm preaching to the converted here, but yeah, we've been doing a lot of it and enjoying it a lot.
Oh yeah, it's just setting true expectations for like brands and stuff. I was talking with my business partner last week, and he was like, what's like the line in the sand for split testing? I was like, I mean, there isn't one. If I was going to pull a number out of my butt, it'd be like $5 million a year. But like, if that's a luxury brand, $5 million is nothing because they don't get as many conversions. So they're not going to hit statistical significance. But like in the same breath, you could have like $1 million a year brand that sells really cheap widgets that has way more than enough conversions to actually hit statistical significance in a timely manner. And the reason why that stuff matters is like, you can launch a split test on any website, but like it takes so long to do it that you're going to be like updating your marketing copy for smaller brands like faster than the test will even run its course. So it's kind of, we often have people that come in that want to do CRO, and we're like, I mean, we can help you guys with some best practices stuff, and there's some like obvious low hanging fruit. We'll knock that out, but like, you don't need to have us on retainer until you guys can like until you have the traffic to support running tests at all times. You don't need us at all times.
And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about like newer brands, I think, need to do more radical things. Especially, I didn't say newer brands earlier, but it definitely applies to you guys. Like the smaller and more nimble you are, the more it's like, do you know what? Our color scheme's blue, but we don't get any repeat orders. So if we changed it to red, no one would even know because everyone's new. Let's change it to red and see if it's stickier. See if people remember it more. And lifetime value's gone up. What did we do? We just in CSS changed 4 numbers from one number to another number, but 4 of them. And suddenly we're like, I know it's not that simple, Chase. I don't want to belittle what you guys do, but it's that process, I think, of going, let's just make it red. Or some of our clients like, we're going to go black and white for Black Friday. So we're going to A/B test it this year and go, one version will be black and white, one will be normal, and one will actually be really bright. Like we're going to introduce a bright, like almost kind of I don't know, Batman style yellow, like, and put something like that on the site to go like, this is so wacky compared, and it does not fit our normal color at all. But that's what we want. That's what we want to send all our email traffic to. Like, hey, we're doing something crazy, and then do an email afterwards. Hey, we're back to normal. Like, we've all calmed down. Black Friday was crazy, and it's like lightning all over the place. We're all back to normal. We're back to normal brand today, and it's like, wow, that brand did something pretty mad, actually. That's quite. And you remember that, but you won't remember just like they did 10% off. You're not going to remember that. I bought from them once. They did 10% off. I might have bought again. I don't even know. But like, you're not going to remember those guys.
Absolutely. Nick, now, is there anything I didn't ask you about today that is going to resonate with our audience over here at Honest Ecommerce?
I don't know. I mean, there's a billion things we could talk about. I think one of the biggest things I'm talking to brands about at the moment, that especially as you guys will be watching this in January, I think one big thing that you need to keep a real eye on at the moment is stock and revenue. I know you'll keep an eye on revenue all the time, whatever, but stock levels in January, you either find they're too high because Christmas hasn't been as good as you wanted it to be, or they're too low because Christmas has been too good. Now, I won't shout any of our partners out. We do have a partner if you want to go check them out, but I won't shout out who they are. But there are lots of good bits of software you can get, especially in Shopify, that will help you forecast when stock's going to run out. You can tell it when you need to reorder. And I think going back to something we spoke about a couple of times already today is like those suppliers. Like, if you've got good suppliers, you'll know when you need to restock things. You can talk to them about turnaround times and that sort of thing. So I'd highly recommend keeping a very close eye on that, and make some fun and creative marketing decisions as a result of it. So if you've got too much stock, how do we get rid of some of it? How do we do a sort of like I saw one company last year said, right, Christmas decorations, we're going to pay you guys to store the Christmas decorations for us till next year. What they did is they just gave them a discount, but they made this angle of, we're going to pay you to store them because they're so good. We know you'll want them, but we'll give you a discount. And they're basically just clearing all their Christmas stocks. So they don't want to sit on it all year. It's fair enough. We had another client that was doing, instead of pre-orders, because they'd run out of so many items and so many lines, instead of doing pre-order, they kept everything in stock and just made their delivery time longer. And I thought that was really smart. So just saying it's 2 weeks for delivery because we know we'll get it from the supplier by then. So it's 2 weeks for delivery. And actually one client I've got, they basically do drop shipping, but it kind of comes to them, then they send it out. So they only order on a Friday what they've sold that week. They know they have a deal with their courier that it will arrive on Monday morning and it arrives at the customer on Tuesday with next day delivery. But their warehousing cost is next to zero because they never sit on any stock. So the supplier sends it over the weekend and gets it to them on Monday. And that's the agreement they've got, which is kind of cool. And you could do that during the week anyway. But I think just get creative. Like, don't put all of your eggs in the Christmas basket and you get to the end of it and go like, right, we've now got no stock, no cash, and everything's gone wrong. Like, I think try and focus on that. And the second thing I would do right now as well is write down everything that went really well and went really badly over peak. At the time of recording this, just ahead of Black Friday, we are rolling out at least 10 marketing strategies that we wrote in January and February earlier this year. So January, February 2024, we wrote the marketing strategy and we're currently rolling them out, and they're all going incredibly well. Those are some of the brands that are thriving at the moment because we learned what we learned from last year about what stock to have, what marketing campaigns to run, what to do on the website, etc. So those have been my two things really we've not really spoken about so much, but I'd really focus and kind of double down on those heading into spring.
No, I think that the post-mortem, doing that, like when you should be doing that this week when this comes out, because you need to do it when it's fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
Just what went well and what didn't well. You can Google post-mortem meeting strategies to get some more questions if you want, but honestly, just having a conversation with everyone on the team about those things, it will unlock things to try again in the end of 2025, things to not do again, or things to iterate upon to get a better result. Postmortems are something that I think a lot of businesses just don't do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Nick, if I enjoy the sound of your voice and I want to hear more, where should I go? What should I do?
Well, you can come and find yourself, Chase, on my show, which will be going out. We're going to try and synchronize the weeks, as Chase said. But yeah, come check out Winning with Shopify. It's bright pink. And in terms of branding, it's not my color, but someone said we will stand out in all the platforms. And since we did that, we get a better click-through rate on an Apple podcast. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, TikTok, Winning with Shopify. If you want to check out the agency, it's spec.digital is our website, spec.digital. And feel free to reach out to us if you want any help with with SEO PPC. We won't suggest anything that doesn't make you money. That's always the caveat for us. But Chase, I mean, it's so good to be on your show, and it's nice to be the one being asked questions for once rather than asking. So yeah, appreciate it, and look forward to getting you on our show as well. Hopefully at the same time as this.
Absolutely, Nick. It was great to chat with you today, and I'm excited to be on your show. Take care.
Awesome. Cheers.
We can't thank our guests enough for coming on the show and sharing their knowledge and journey with us. We've got a lot to think about and potentially add into our own businesses. You can find all the links in the show notes. You can subscribe to the newsletter at honestecommerce.co to get each episode delivered right into your inbox. If you're enjoying this content, consider leaving a review on iTunes. That really helps us out. Lastly, if you're a store owner looking for an amazing partner to help you get your Shopify store to the next level, reach out to Electric Eye at electriceye.io/connect. Until next time.